Hey guys, Carl sir, and let me tell you, I feel like it's been forever since I've done a video that wasn't just like a code video, and I have got some great stuff to talk about right now. Wow, usually I make sure I got I'm off. Usually I make sure I got my stuff taken care of before, and nope. So what we're going to talk about right now is the patch notes. I'm not going to go over every monster because, as you can see, there is a list and a good amount of changes incoming. I'm just going to tap on a few things, and then beyond that, I just suggest that you go read the changes coming. We don't know exactly when. It does say the next time they do a patch. So, I mean, and it says soon, probably in the next week or two. I mean, it could be even within a few days. We don't always know exactly when they're doing it, but, you know. So, one of the things I want to touch on is the Dark Ifrit. It's literally the first line item up here, and I think it's big because there's been a lot of debate about whether that whole Nnnoooo versus Vero, do I even need Vero, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I've heard a lot of people show convincing evidence that Nnnoooo at least holds on very well with Veremos. And Lulu's very easy to get, very easy to skill up, doesn't need... I mean, so there definitely is a debate, and it's sort of convincing to think that Nnnoooo can at least hold on with Vero, and that makes you think, well, do I even need Vero? I think yes. I still think it's well worth doing Vero, but it certainly was debatable. Now it is still going to be debatable, but this is going to be a big thing for the side of Vero. If you're one of the people who says screw Nnnoooo, or whether or not, you know, let's make that fusion of Vero real quick. Either way, this is going to be big. If you look at right here, used to be Vero would heal for 3% of the HP for every harmful effect he removed. Now, all allies will recover by 3% further. So it used to be just himself. At least that's, I don't know. His heal's always been so tiny it's never mattered. But now, if you think of DB10, right? This is going to be so impactful on DB10. First of all, PvP obviously too, obviously. But DB10, when they reduced Shayna, they made so many people's DB10 so less reliable. And part of it is because when he does that breath attack, for every dot on your champion, it takes more damage. Imagine that, but now, with Veremos on your team, first of all, he'll cleanse. Everybody will get one cleanse, right? And then on top of that, since there's 5 people on the team, your whole team will get a 15% heal. Every one of them will get 15%. And that's every time he gets a turn, as long as there's something for him to remove, of course. But if you're trying to run a speed team or breaking into a speed team, or whether you're not or not, honestly, he is going to be huge on helping these runs be steady. Really, that's what, you know, this big change, in my opinion, is going to really help stabilize DB10 runs for a lot of people. Now, the Occult girls are all getting some changes, so I will just suggest that you read those. They're all kind of minor, in my opinion, just small buffs trying to make them all a little better. The dragons, only light and dark are getting changed, really. Really, it's, in my opinion, because a lot of people have said, like, I've seen people draw the dark dragon and be like, woohoo, you know, super sarcastically, because it just, you know, for a light and dark Nat 5, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't turn it down, but I've heard a lot of people just not happy. So, Vamp Lord as well, he's getting a nice little, like, triple buff here. His blood contract, the buffs are going to go on an extra turn, which is really nice. His S2, I think, is his weaken, is going to get increased. The awakened form, I believe, is going to get increased more, but maybe that's just how they put it here. I don't know. The same thing with the whole vampire tree. They're all getting up just a little bit. The dark vampire is not the vampire lord. That's the dark vampire, the one from the HOH before. They're changing it to where you can read it right here. It used to be when she killed an enemy, the attack bar of all allies would increase 30%. Now it'll absorb the attack bar of the enemy by 15% when she attacks. So it won't be reliant on her getting the killing strike, just her getting an attack. That may even make it a little more worth doing her on Vera or Vio. It might make to where you see a little bit of Vamp in Arena now, maybe some 4-star Siege comps. I don't know that it's enough of a buff to actually make that happen. But anytime you see a buff like this, I at least believe that it becomes a possibility that you'll start to see a little bit of these, a little like a little outside the people love playing outside the meta. Yeah, obviously people like the meta too, but they only like the meta usually because it's strong and it works well. Anytime you allow us to bring in creatures that aren't in the meta and start doing something really fun that no one else is doing, I think a lot of people really enjoy that when it works. Not a lot of people like to do the work to make it work, but either way. So the Dragon Knights are all going to get a small increase. it's it's interesting. Well, all the base elements: water, fire, light. Oh no, it's water, fire, light, not wind. So I guess wind isn't getting any change at all. Sucks for him. Um, I'm happy about this though because I've got fire. Yeah. But the S2 will now ignore all damage reduction effects. I talked with some people about this. Seemingly, what everyone seems to, I've got a consensus from a few players. Defense buff, it should ignore defense buffs. I'm actually a little on the fence about that one, but everyone seems to say, like, I'm outnumbered on that one. The people I've talked to, several of them think that it will ignore defense buffs. I don't think it will, but like I said, I'm highly outnumbered on that one, so I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. We'll have to see when it comes out. But things like Dias, his passive damage reduction won't affect Chow and Leica, and then the Light Dragon King, I think is his name or something. I don't remember. No. Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. Somebody told me it yesterday. He's also getting another kind of a tweak with his passive. I do just suggest that you read it instead of me just trying to go over it. It's a bit much. Another big change, in my opinion anyway, the Praha change right here. She's getting it to where her S3 will put a one-turn sleep on all of the enemies with a 50% chance. I don't think she needed it. She's already so strong with her S2 being so reliable, and then her S3 being such a high... I will say that it's a high cooldown, but it's such a high heal percent, and then you add a little bit more to her S3, I think you might start seeing more of her in RTA. It's debatable in RTA. You might start seeing more of her there. I think you'll see even more of her in a read and defense than you already do, which sucks because she's there a lot already. But we'll just have to see on that one. The next big one, in my opinion, Tayor. 2 lines down. Bam! Damage increased by 18% on his crush, which I am so happy about because so many people have run the numbers and he barely does more damage than the fusible Nat 5. So you pull him and you're like, well, he's basically the same thing, but he doesn't even, at least the fusible one can freeze everybody. I mean, he can freeze one person and slow the rest. It's not even an attack bar reduction, so the slow barely matters because they've almost got their turn by the so it's just small win over the water. So now that he'll have a little more damage on his crush, I think that, and not just a little more, 18%. That's a nice buff. So a bit more damage on his crush. I use him in some speed runs, so I'm certainly going to be happy about it, but, we'll just have to see. The Dryads all got a nice little buff. I would just check it out. The big thing, I think, is the heal in the Oblivion state increasing by 10% and then a turn. All of the snipers are getting a little buff. Thank goodness, because in my opinion, half the snipers are garbage. They changed the buff on the wind, or the passive on the wind sniper. So definitely go check that out. He might actually be worth building now. We'll just have to see. Water is the only one that got a small buff instead of like a big buff. All the other ones got a big buff. Water got a small 11% damage increase. It's nice and all, but so, but I don't think water needed a huge buff anyway. A lot of people were using him in Siege, and I saw a little in Arena, but mostly in Siege. So he had a use anyway. Windhard getting an interesting buff. I would say check that out. The Death Knights, interestingly enough, all got little turn reductions. I don't really know what their plan is there. Maybe they just want to see a little bit more of them. I don't know. But here's the other big thing, and probably the last thing I'll talk about, the Beast Hunters. These guys are getting huge changes. Big increases, huge changes across the board. Why is this interesting? This to me is very interesting, specifically because we know they're adding more 2A monsters soon. And I don't see any reason for them to majorly overhaul the Beast Hunters unless they plan on, I mean, a major overhaul right here. If you read these changes, I mean, all these last 5, 6 squares are for the Beast Hunters. These are major changes. If you're going to make a major change like this to a whole family, I feel like you're probably doing it because you're planning on trying to introduce them to the meta somehow. Whether it's the PvP or PvE meta, either way, I feel like this is a hint that they might be going to make these 2A monsters. I don't know for sure. Obviously, this is conjecture. I've brought it up to a couple of people, and they agree that it does seem like, well, why would they if that's not what they're doing? But it might be that they have another plan as well, so don't think that I have the inside scoop or anything. I just think that this is a very interesting thing to note, and I would say keep an eye on it. They haven't announced exactly who they'll be adding to the 2A list, but we know they will be. So just something to keep an eye on. Honestly, outside of that, the only real things that they've done is some bug changes, a couple of leadership changes by small amounts. So, I'm sorry, not leadership, awakening changes, and then one leadership change. I'm tired, guys. It's ready to go to bed, man. I'm done. This might post in the middle of the day, but anyway, back to that was a power nap, guys. Those are good for you. So, don't forget Vero. If you're having a hard time on DB10, just wait until this patch drops. Try throwing Vero back into your team. See if it makes it more consistent. That may not work for a really high speed team if you're aiming for like sub 50 seconds or something. But if you're not aiming for like sub 50 seconds, I think you'll find that he could be a very good use. And actually, even if you are aiming for like sub 1 minute, you might be able to make him work because of he's a decent monster anyway, and then add his heal in for really good stability. I don't know. That'll have to be tested when it comes. We'll just have to see on that one, but that's it, guys. Check out these patch notes. If you don't know how to check him, I'll show you right now. Follow the little dotty thing. Click on media. There, that thing, right there. And then right here where it says notice, and then bam, right here at the top, pre-notice monster balancing and improvements. And this dropped a couple of days ago, the pre-notice did. So to me, that means that it could be literally any day. That's it. I'm done. We're going to stop talking now so I can just go on and do something else. Happy Halloween, since it's coming up, like a day or two. I don't know. Happy Halloween to everybody who celebrates it, to everybody who doesn't. Not happy Halloween. Yeah, I don't know. Either way. You guys have a good one. Let me know what you guys think about the Beast Hunter change. If you think that that is in fact signifying that that might be the next 2A, or whether you think it's for a totally different reason. If you have another explanation, I would love to hear it, because I'd like to know. And if I think you're right, I may even include it in another follow-up video. So if you have something, then even if you just think it might be, throw it in a comment, and I will at least go check it out and see if maybe I can find some traction on if that's it or not. So thanks, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.